Hi, I'm Mia, and I want to share with you my testimony about what God has done in my life. I came from a broken home, which I hear more and more and more recently through all the testimonies that we've heard in the recent past. And so my story is not uncommon, and it's not unlike probably a lot of you watching this now. Um, my parents split up when I was very, very young, I think maybe two. Um, and I grew up in a non-Christian environment, a non-Christian home, without my father, and um, it it affected me in ways that I didn't realize until I was much, much older. But looking back, I remember always having this deep-seated desire to be, whether it was, picked for the kickball team or picked for, a band solo or something like that. I always had this need to be chosen. Just to hear my name being called by someone, you know. Um, and it was the weirdest thing because I wasn't a flashy kind of person. I mean, I was bubbly and that kind of thing, and I didn't seek attention, but I always wanted to be chosen for something. um, Later on in my mom remarried to a wonderful man who I considered my dad, because he was there, he was present. He was in the Marine Corps, and so our entire family moved to North Carolina when I was about 15 years old. And we get there, and things were a little different. I mean, it was a culture shock indeed, moving from up north to the south. But I noticed that people were so friendly, and it was just a weird thing. But this guy would come to our house, and he would invite us to church, and we finally went, as a family, and it just seemed like this weird place to me. I mean, my mom would send us to a local Methodist church when I was growing up, but this was different. I mean, people were so nice, and so, like, they would hug you and stuff, and it was just so weird. But I remember when the pastor stood up and he started preaching, because that's back when pastors would really preach, like pulpit pounding and things like that. And I just remember this excitement that would well up inside of me, and it was unlike anything I'd ever felt before, because where I had this hollow, empty feeling, there was now this excitement, and that I knew that, man, something's missing in my life. But I didn't know what it was. And this Sunday morning, the pastor's up there and he's talking about, hell, and how it is a real place. And, and while that kind of scared me, then he starts talking about Jesus and the love of Christ and what he did on the cross for my sin. And it was that moment when I realized, I need a savior. I need someone to save me from this life that is so empty and so meaningless. And it was so sad to think that a 15-year-old knew that this life was empty and meaningless. But at that moment I did. And so I walked up front and I knelt down at the altar and I committed my life to Christ. And there was like this amazing transformation that started to take place. Right away, started in ministry with teaching children's church and helping out with worship and that sort of thing. And I wish I could say that was the end of it. But unfortunately, like most people, my Christian walk has been one step forward, two steps back. And when I graduated high school, I realized that not only was I bored with life, but I had absolutely no direction. And so I started to pull away from the Lord, and we moved from where we lived in North Carolina to a different city, and we didn't get connected to a church body. And while I had a good foundation, I started to find that what that world had to offer, even though I knew it was destructive, it was enticing. And so little by little, I started to give myself over to the things that was around me, alcohol and, dead-end relationships and things like that. And it just got so out of control that I had a complete nervous breakdown at the age of 19. I was just spiraling, just completely spiraling out of control. And the harder I tried to hold on, the quicker it seemed to just be falling away. And it was literally like pushing water uphill. But it wasn't enough for me to get connected into the church family, a support system that I needed. It wasn't enough for me to surrender my life to Christ. It just kept going and going and going until one day I looked up and I thought, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know where I'm going. It was just like this, I was empty all over again. There was just this complete hole where my heart was. And I thought, that's great. I'm going to die like this. And I literally thought that was going to be the end. It wasn't long directly after I realized that my life was literally ending. I mean, spiritually, and my life was ending. It wasn't long after that I met my husband, and he grew up in the church. Was the weirdest guy I thought I'd ever met. I mean, he was just so nice and so gentle. I mean, not like any of the Marines I had ever met or, dated or anything like that. And it was just such a weird feeling to go out on a date with a guy that didn't even like try to kiss me or hug me or anything. I mean, he didn't do anything. And I'm thinking, there's something wrong with this guy. I really thought that he was just, really weird. But we ended up talking about our families and that kind of thing. And we realized that we had, we both grew up in the same kind of church. And, and as soon as he said church, I'm already peaked because I'm like, okay, this is different, and so we started dating, and it wasn't long after that he was getting shipped off to Japan and getting ready to leave for good. And he said, "Hey, let's get married." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that." And and you would think that would be the moment that things are starting to look up, and I'm like, okay, God, this is great. This is you, and I'm going to follow you. And it wasn't. It wasn't that instant. It was like my life started to change, and my decisions started to change, and my behavior started to change, but I wasn't on board yet. I wasn't, because I knew what that meant. I knew that meant that I had to change, and that scared me. So it wasn't until I had my daughter that I realized I don't want her to grow up the same way I did. I don't want her to grow up without godly influences and without a support system, without Christ, at every turn. And so that's when I finally had said, okay, I need to surrender my life so that my girl will know what it's like to walk the Christian life. And it hasn't been easy. It's, just surrendering everything means just that. It means letting go of your dreams and your aspirations and who you thought you were supposed to be, and surrendering all of that to things that glorify God, and and allowing Him to shine His light through me and for His glory. And it took me many years to understand what that meant and what it looked like. And I'm little by little starting to see the true character of Christ and being able to trust who He is, and who He is in my life, and believe that He is for me and not against me, and that everything that He does is for His glory, even in my suffering, which I've come to find is usually self-inflicted. So it's been a difficult journey, but I can say it's nothing short of amazing. The adventures that I have had, because Christ is the Lord of my life, is I wouldn't trade that for anything. I have now come to see both of my daughters accept Christ as their Lord and Savior, and to me, that was worth every struggle and every tear that I had to cry and go through, so that they can see what it means to really, really be sold out for Christ. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this in some way inspires you to seek Christ for yourself, and to start your own journey with Him and your own relationship with Him.